Hello and welcome to Broker News, the #1 website for leasing brokers. My name is Ralph Morton and I'm the editor of Broker News. My guest today is Paul Parkinson. He's the CEO and founder of Synergy Car Leasing and chair of the BVRLA Leasing Broker Committee. Now, Paul had something of a star turn hosting the recent BVRLA conference. And one of the key focuses there was consumer duty. Now, Paul's come in very kindly today to talk to us about consumer duty and what brokers can do to prepare for it. Now, one of the key takeaways I took from that conference was Alphabet's Richard Chadwick just saying, whatever you do, get a plan by the end of October, which I thought was quite funny, but quite opposite. So with consumer duty affecting all brokers, Paul, perhaps you could start by outlining the key principles of it and some of the deadlines that have got to be met.
Yeah, I think we're sort of hurtling towards the 31st of October as a deadline, Ralph, which is the date that all regulated businesses must have a plan signed off by their board of directors. And I think that given the amount of lead time that we've had in terms of the run up and the consultation papers and the information and the sort of the production of the consumer duty in July this year in terms of the final requirements on businesses and the deadline for implementation of the 31st of July 2023. I think Richard's comments were that businesses of all sizes. So you've got big business, high level of internal resource, and probably, its own level of challenges in terms of, creating a plan, understanding how it affects the large number of employees that it's got, the large number of business relationships, the large number of products and services that it provides, which in some cases might be more complicated due to the size of it. It may have ARs. Et cetera, et cetera. So a bigger business may have more resource, but might have more work to do its own plan. And a small business, could be a single person doing a great job as a broker, and everything in between. And a small business may feel, oh, this new consumer duty is going to be, etc. But the point that Richard made is that have a plan that's suitable for your business. You may find that a small business of a small number of employees may only have 2 or 3 products. It might only do a small amount of its business in regulated, but it still requires a plan. And the good news about these plans is that nobody expects the plan that is signed off by the directors by the 31st of December to be its final position. We expect those plans to change over time, and we expect more detail to be added to those plans, or should I say the regulator expects more detail to be added as businesses go on a journey of discovery. For example, brokers don't design the products that they offer. The funders design those products, and they don't have to provide the information to us about, shall we say, their finished, sort of internal, are we fit for purpose? Is this product fit for purpose until April next year, which then gives brokers, May, June and July to decide on the suitability, make sure that, that those products in their portfolio are fit for purpose under the consumer duty and that they meet the 4 principles and the cross-cutting rules that are in place. But I do genuinely think that Richard's comment was meant with the very best intentions.
Absolutely. I think it was, and I think it was quite clear that it doesn't matter what, but you've really got to make something happen now, haven't you? If you haven't done.
Yeah. Again, it's that thing of, if you were in a position where you were thinking of trying to write something at the last minute, and your plan was ever called into question, then you probably only got yourself to blame, because unfortunately, and we do operate in a regulated environment, there have been enough signposts along the way to say, have something that means something, have an evolving plan, and commit to that by the 31st of October.
Sure. Now, Paul, perhaps I can just pick up with something you mentioned earlier about larger brokerages taking a different approach to smaller ones. I think that was exemplified, at the conference when you had Andy Bruce, the CEO of Fleet Alliance, a very large leasing broker, and Paul Bullock from Concept Vehicle Leasing, a much smaller entity. And I think Andy said he had something like 9 senior managers taking lines of responsibility for various elements of it. And whereas Paul said, well, I've just appointed one person to look after this. So what would you say to brokers still nervous about Consumer Duty, and what should they do? I think you mentioned earlier about that sort of simplification process and making it fit for your business.
Yeah, I mean, I think the other thing for a smaller business, which is my thoughts on it are that in terms of our connectivity and our engagement as a group of businesses, it is clear that all businesses are fit for purpose in the sector, i.e. a bespoke, small 2 or 3 person business that offers a professional service to its customers, and probably, a very bespoke service to it. And then we talked about it earlier, Ralph, the big business with a data-driven, online proposition. We all still have to make sure that we're treating our customers how we'd want to be treated, that we're avoiding foreseeable harm, that our products and services are fit for purpose, that we don't have products and services that have got onerous terms and conditions. But I think that Anthony Hopkins said something very recently, which is, today is the tomorrow that you were apprehensive of. And when you get into today, you generally find a way to get on with it. And I think that one of these things is that we've got to get on with what we're doing and actually just say, right, okay, break it down into bite-sized chunks. What are the important things? This new Consumer Duty is about holding ourselves to a higher standard of operation, where we provide good outcomes for our customers, and then being able to evidence that we do that. Well, a smaller business doesn't have that many moving parts, whereas in a bigger business, they've got, like we said, they've got multiple channels of operation, they've got multiple funded products, they've got other products and services that they offer, they've got more people singing the song, and getting more people to sing the right song sometimes is more difficult than it is between 2 or 3 people. So I do think that fear or apprehension might have been a thing maybe before Consumer Duty was actually completely delivered. But if you want to stay in business, you've just got to get on with it and actually do something and get it down, and then iterate it as you go along. It's not optional, is it?
No, Paul, that's really good. What would be your top tips for resources and so on for sort of finalizing your plan?
I think the document, there's a 63-page document that came out in July. It's a big document. I would recommend that if you've got a business in this sector, if you are the principal of that business, that 63 pages isn't going to take you a long time to read. I think reading that document lifts the veil of and all this, because the principles are clear and straightforward. You've got to have a plan. You've got to implement that plan. You've got to modify that plan as you go along and make sure that it's doing the right things. You've then got to make sure that moving forward, you have a regime that you review the products and services at least annually, and your own operation annually, I think you can make it seem a lot more complicated than it actually is by not getting stuck in. It's that sort of thing. Once you have a go and you think, oh, it's not quite as bad as I thought it was, and I think that's probably the message I would say, is that getting stuck in and having a go and looking at the basic things initially. Would I say that every business needs to go out and get consultants in? I don't think you do. I don't think this is that type of thing. I think looking at your own business, we know our businesses, and whether they're big, small, medium, tiny, massive. As principals of our business, we know our businesses better than anybody else. And by reading that document and getting that basic plan together, and then saying, I'm prepared to modify my plan, I'm prepared to monitor our performance, I'm prepared to create the management information structure within the business that shows that we are keeping close to things like complaints. You know, a small business might have a handful of complaints. It wouldn't be able to operate in our sector if it had hundreds and hundreds of complaints to manage all the time. So I think that everything's horses for courses, and if you've got a few complaints, like every business gets, monitor them, work out what the root causes of those complaints were. Can we make an improvement so that we don't get that complaint again? Can we record it? And when you start to actually piece it together, small business, medium business, large business, everybody's got their own level of work to do. My suggestion is get stuck in, read the document, and create a simple plan. And it's a consistent message, Ralph. I've been saying this for quite a while now.
Paul, look, thank you. That's been really, really helpful, and I hope it's helped put at ease some leasing brokers who may still be sort of struggling with what they've got to do. But thank you, Paul, for sharing your advice and your knowledge. I know you've done a lot as lead for the BVRLA Leasing Broker Committee on Consumer Duty. So thank you very much for your time today. It's been really helpful.
Ralph, if I could say one more piece before I finish on this, the BVRLA have created some webinars that are available to BVRLA members to use. There's a good data source. There's some good guidance in there. My recommendation would be check those webinars out. There's also a consumer duty training course from the BVRLA as well, which again might clear some of the mystery and help people focus on what they want to do. So just a final thought from me.
That's terrific, Paul. Thank you very, very much for your time today. That's been great. Thank you, Paul.